So good afternoon, everyone. So I would like to welcome you all to a live session from Let's Update Language Academy for OET Reading Module. And let's just wait for a few minutes for the rest of our friends to join in, and then we'll start shortly. So I can see a lot of you joining in. So yes, hello, good afternoon, Sandra, and good afternoon, Atulya, and hello, Sharath, and hello, Reena and Jiju, and good afternoon, Priya, Mu, and good afternoon, Anjana, and good afternoon, Amal. Okay, so let me introduce myself. I am Pooja Kumar, and I am here to give you an insight about OET Reading Module Part C. Okay, so now as you can see on the screen, so OET Reading Module that is the OET reading subtest. Okay, let me just give you an intro first. Okay, because for those who are attempting for the very first time, okay, you might need the necessary instructions. Okay, so reading subtest is basically divided into three parts. That is part A, part B, and part C. Okay, and you will have a total of 42 questions, and part A will consist of 20 questions, part B consists of 6 questions, and part C will consist of 16 questions altogether. Okay. And you will have a total time of 60 minutes or 1 hour to solve the test. Okay. And part A Part A will be allotted a total of 15 minutes, and for part B and C together, you will be allotted a total of 45 minutes. Okay, so I hope that is clear to you. And and as far as OET reading module part C is concerned, what does it do? It basically assesses your ability to identify detailed meaning and opinion in two different texts. You will have a set of two different texts, okay, each consisting of about 800 words each, okay, and the nature or of those text will be it will be based on topics of interest to healthcare profession. Okay, so Those will be the kind of topics you can expect from part C. Okay, so it could be based on researches, okay, of and the researchers and their opinions, okay, and the opinions of other people who have done the research on the same topic. Okay, so these are the kind of information that you can expect in the part C text. Okay, and in part C, as I told you, there will be two long text, okay, followed by 16 questions, and each question will be of four options, multiple choice in nature. Yes, that means you will have a set of four options and you must choose the correct answer or the most appropriate answer from a set of four options. Okay, so that is the nature of questions in part. Okay. And how do you crack part C, or how do you go about solving part C or approaching part C? Is first you need to read the question to know what information you need to find from the text or the paragraph. And then read the paragraph. Okay, to know what information is there. Okay, and the aim of reading the paragraph should be that you should be finding the answer to the question that you have just read. Okay, so that is the aim when you read that paragraph. Okay, so and then what you need to do is read the answer options. Okay, read all of them and choose the most appropriate answer. And so that's the general information that you require when so when you are approaching or reading a subtest, and when you are approaching the reading module part C. So these are the general information, and so now we shall go about solving part C module. Okay, so we will have a discussion now. And yes, hello, Jenny Mole PG, and good afternoon, Tessa John. Okay, so you can feel you are supposed to, you can interact and you can put in your answers in the comment section in Facebook. Okay, when we are going to discuss the C module. Okay, so now as you can see on the screen, this is a part C module of a reading subtest. Okay, so usually how it is that there will be a long text of about 800 words. Okay, and then after the entire text you will have a set of like 8 questions. Okay, so that is how it is generally structured, but here for your convenience I have structured it in such a way that each paragraph is followed by each question. Okay, so that you can see the paragraph and the question and the options at the same time. Okay, so that is how it is now. Okay, so as you can see on the screen. Okay, so usually the format is such that the first paragraph, the question, the very first question will be from the first paragraph, the second question from the second paragraph, and so on. Okay, so that will be the order usually. Okay, sometimes there might be two questions from a paragraph. Okay, and sometimes there might be paragraphs with no question at all. Okay, so that can also happen, but the order is such. Okay, will be in that order. So I have restructured the paragraph and the question in such a way that you can see both at the same time. Okay, so now we shall go about solving this. So now, as you can see, the very first question uh, that you can see is in the first paragraph. What does the writer infer about freedom? Okay, so that is a question, and now you can see the paragraph. Okay, I'll give you a minute to read it by yourself, and then we shall solve it together. Okay. Okay, so we shall read the text together now. So, the ongoing measles outbreaks across the United States and Europe prove definitely that our personal choices affect everybody around us. Although you have a right to your own body, your choice to willfully be sick ends where another's right to be healthy begins. For that reason, people who opt out of vaccines should be opted out of American society. This is America, the land of the free. That freedom, however, doesn't mean I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. When we choose to live in a society, there are certain obligations, both moral and legal, to which we are bound. You cannot inflict harm or feeling infringe on the rights and liberties of those around you. So this was what the paragraph was about, and this is a question. So in the first paragraph, what does the writer infer about freedom? Okay, so that is a question. So what do you think is the answer? So please feel free to put in your choice of answers in the comment section in Facebook. Okay, I can see answers coming in. Shalu Shrath has put an A as answer. Rahul Raj has put an A as answer. That freedom has its limits. Okay, I want more of you to participate, and please feel free to put in your choice of answers in the comment section. Okay, so let me tell you the answer. The answer for this question is indeed A. Freedom has its limits. So I shall highlight the answer so that you'll get an idea. Okay, so and why do you think it's A? The reason why we can say it's A is because from this information from this first paragraph, it is that freedom, however, doesn't mean I can do whatever I want whenever I want. When we choose to live in a society, there are certain obligations, both moral and legal, to which we are bound. Okay, so that is why it is implying that freedom has its own limitations and limits. Okay, so even though you are given certain rights and freedom, that doesn't mean you can do anything you want. Okay, because there are certain obligations that you need to follow. Okay, yeah, and duties that you need to follow. Okay, or that you need to adhere to. So yes, this is that part of the paragraph that implies that A is the answer, that freedom has its limits. Okay, so congrats to all those who have answered correctly. So moving on to the next question. The question is in paragraph 2, which of the following are not true? Okay, and this is the paragraph that you can see on the screen. I'll give you a minute to read it silently and then we'll solve it together. Okay, so now we shall read it together. So that is, those obligations extend even to your constitutional rights. Although we have a First Amendment, you are not allowed to play music as loudly as you want in your apartment. Your neighbors have a legal right to peace and quiet. Even though we have a Second Amendment, you are not allowed to shoot a gun for sport in the middle of a city or town. Stray bullets are not only scary, they are hazardous and often inadvertently kill people. Finally, your moral and legal obligations to the safety of others can even curtail combinations of your rights. Even though consuming alcohol and driving are both legal activities, they are not legal when performed together. Nearly 11,000 people die every year because people choose to exercise their rights inappropriately. Okay, so what do you think the answer is? So the question is in paragraph 2, which of the following are not true? So just whenever you see something like not true, false, incorrect, not mentioned, etc. Okay, so these are things that you that is not mentioned or not true. Okay, so you have to pay a lot of attention to that part and just underline that or highlight that whenever you see that information, even for the exam. Because after reading it, you should not come with an answer of what is mentioned in the text. Okay, because what you need to find out is what is not mentioned or what is not true. Okay, so let's just highlight this part. Okay, and so you have to find something which is not true. So yes, I can see your choice of answers is Rahul Raj has put in D as answer. What about the rest of you? See, B Regis has put in C as answer. Yeah, please feel free to put in your choice of answers in the comment section in Facebook. Okay, so let me tell you what the answer is. Yes, the answer is okay. Option D, that is moral and legal obligation extend to other amendments. Okay, this is something that is not mentioned. Okay, or that is not true. Okay, and why it's not true? Let's see whether the others are true. Okay, so in these kind of options and questions, what you need to do is you need to check whether each of the sentences mentioned or not. Okay, so going over the first option A, the people who live near you have a right to a certain degree of calm. Yes, that is right, because they have written towards the beginning of the paragraph that although we have a First Amendment, you are not allowed to play music as loudly as you want in the apartments because your neighbors have a legal right to peace and quiet. Okay, so that part is mentioned. Okay, so A is mentioned over here. Okay, and now moving to the second option, the First Amendment limits your activity in some ways. Does it limit your activity in some ways? Yes, because what the First Amendment tells you is that it's about the USA. So their First Amendments actually gives you the freedom of speech. Okay, so but then what they have mentioned is even though there is a First Amendment, that means even though you have a freedom of speech and doing whatever rights you have, but then you do not have the right to communicate like serious threats, okay, or injury or death to others. Okay, you cannot communicate even though you have the right to speech. You cannot through speech you cannot communicate serious threats of injury or death to others. Okay, so or doing or conspiring for any sort of criminal acts. Okay. So that is what the first amendment says. Okay, so now and as per mentioned in the paragraph also, what it is mentioned is, even though you have this first amendment of the right to speech, you are not allowed to play music as loudly as you want in the apartment, right? Because your neighbors have a legal right to peace and okay, so that point is there. That means it limits your activity in some ways, right? You can't do whatever you want and whenever you want. Okay. So that, and that is what is mentioned in the paragraph, and otherwise also what the first amendment tells you is it limits your activity. That is, you cannot conspire or do a conspiracy, or you cannot issue threats through speech, etc. Okay, that is there. So the first amendment basically limits your activity in these ways. Okay, so because this is mentioned, and that is how it your right is actually restricted in that way. And regarding the option C, the second amendment does not permit unlimited use of guns. Okay, and that is correct because it is mentioned here that you are not allowed to shoot a gun for sport in the middle of a city or town. Okay. What does basically the second amendment tell you is that of the USA is that you have the right to keep arms, okay, arms or weapons. You have the right to do so. But the problem is, but you are not allowed to shoot a gun for sport in the middle of a city or town, okay, because that's scary and it might cause a lot of harm. Okay, so and because of that, it restricts your what do you say, right to like shoot in the middle of a city. Okay, so in that way it limits your active that kind of activity. So and because of which option C is also mentioned. Okay, so basically A is mentioned, B is mentioned, and C is mentioned. Okay, as I have highlighted here in the text. Okay, and so the only option that is not mentioned is D, moral and legal obligations extend to other amendments. Okay, there's what is mentioned here in the first part is that those obligations extend even to your constitutional rights. Okay, not the amendments. Okay, your obligations will only extend to your constitutional rights, but not to the amendment. That is why. So, so it being extended to other amendments, that sentence would be false or incorrect in that way. Okay, so moving on to question number 9, and question number 9 is the example of a drunk driver is given to. Okay, so and the paragraph is what you can see over here. Yes, so I'll give you a minute to read it silently, and then we shall discuss it together. So we shall read the paragraph. So the exact same reasoning applies to vaccination. There is no moral difference between a drunk driver and a willfully unvaccinated person. Both are selfishly, recklessly, and knowingly putting the lives of everyone they encounter at risk. Their behavior endangers the health, safety, and livelihood of the innocent bystanders who happen to have the misfortune of being in their path. Okay. So that was what the paragraph was about, and the question is the example of a drunk driver is given too. Okay, and the options are: A, show that there can be terrible consequences of selfish behavior; B, demonstrate that acting freely can lead to accidents; C, emphasize the link between decisions and risk; D, some people are innocent of willful misdemeanors. Okay, so these are the four options. And so, what do you think the answer is? Okay, so I can see answers coming up. Okay, so Reena and Jiju has put in C as the answer. Nadia Sahir has put in A. Harsha Kurup has put in A. Nadia, Rahul Raj has put in A. Kartika Aravind has put in A. Sandra has put in A. Sibi Srijit has put in A as answer. So let's see, and yes, the answer is indeed option A. Show that there can be terrible consequences of selfish behavior. Okay, so they have given the example of a drunk driver. Okay, not to emphasize how drunk and if a person is a drunk driver will cause accidents, and not to emphasize that part, but they have just given that example to just tell you that there can be terrible consequences of selfish behavior or a disaster. And the reason is because here in this extract, what they are talking about vaccinations and how people opt out of vaccinations, and so here they have compared a unvaccinated person to a drunk driver. Okay. And because there is something in common, that is both are selfishly, recklessly, and knowingly putting the lives of everyone they encounter at risk. Okay, so being unvaccinated is as bad as a drunk driver is what they have implied, because an unvaccinated person can actually that behavior of theirs can cause severe or terrible consequences. Okay, because they are putting a lot of people at risk. Okay, and that is why, so I'll just highlight that part, which leads us to this answer. So moving to the next question, and that's the 10th question. Paragraph 4: which of the following would not be exceptions to the idea that everyone should be vaccinated? Okay, so, and you can see the paragraph over here, so I'll give you a minute to read it and then we'll solve it together. Okay, so now let's read together. So the reasons why are simple and straightforward. Vaccines aren't perfect. They can wear off over time, and not everyone can be vaccinated. There is one and only one legitimate reason to skip a vaccine: being immune compromised. Some individuals, because of genetic deficiencies or diseases like cancer, cannot receive vaccines. Other people are too young. Vaccines such as MMR cannot be administered before 12 months of age. These vulnerable people rely on the responsible actions of everyone else in society to protect them, concept known as herd immunity. So that was what the paragraph was about. And moving to the question in paragraph 4, which of the following would not be exceptions to the idea that everyone should be vaccinated? They are asking about not the exceptions, but which are not exceptions. They are asking which of the following would not be exceptions. Okay, so that means um, they are asking for the groups, okay, that could be vaccinated. Okay, yeah. So what do you think the answer is? Because there could be some exceptions also, but so they are they don't want that answer. They are asking for not the exceptions but the people who can be vaccinated. Okay, so yes, what do you think is the answer? So please put in your choice of answers in the comment section in Facebook, and I shall read out your answers. Okay, so Nadia Sahir has put in A as the answer. Kartika Aravind has put in D. Rahul Raj has put in A. Okay. So more of you can participate and put in your choice of answers. So let me tell you the answer. Priya Amu has put in A as the answer. Sibi Srijis has put in B. Bindu Kurian has put in A. Okay, so they are not asking about the exceptions. Okay, just remember that they are not asking about the exceptions. Which are the exceptions of vaccination? So these people cannot get vaccinations. And those are the exceptions. Okay, so they are not asking about the exceptions. They are asking is the opposite. That means they are asking about people who can actually get the vaccination. That is what they are asking. So what should your answer be? Okay, let's just solve this. So they have written that. If you are, yeah, there is only one and only one legitimate reason to skip a vaccine, that is being immune compromised. That means people who are immune compromised or have an issue with that, a problem with the immune system, cannot receive the vaccine. That means option D. Option D cannot be your answer because that is an exception. Okay, so option D is an exception, and that you can eliminate option D. Okay, so they are not asking about the exception. Once again, reminding you. So Chinju Basil has put in B as the answer. Okay, yeah. So I can see answers coming up. Okay, so yeah. And what about the rest of the options? What is written here is some individuals because of genetic deficiency or disease like cancer cannot receive vaccine. Okay, what is that? Those are pre-existing conditions, right? So some individuals because of genetic deficiencies, or diseases like cancer. Okay, so these are pre-existing conditions. Okay, so that means they cannot receive the vaccines or could be ineffective. So that means option A. Okay, so so the second sentence is what A, option A is about. Okay, that is some individuals because of genetic. Okay, so that is also something that is an exception. okay, for receiving vaccination. Okay, so you cannot take D is an exception for vaccination, so you eliminate it. A is an exception for vaccination, you eliminate it. And then what about the others? Other people are too young. Okay, so that is the next sentence. Other people are too young. Okay, so yes, so because of which they cannot receive the vaccination as well. So that means option C is also included. So C is also an exception. So option A, C, and D are exceptions. So they are asking which are not the exceptions to receive a vaccination, and your answer should be D. People for whom the effects of vaccines do not wear off over. Okay, only these kind of people can receive the vaccine. Okay, so I hope I'm clear. Okay, and you have understood this. Yes, so congrats to all those who have answered it correctly. Okay, so moving on to the next question number 11, paragraph 5. What does the writer infer about vaccinations? And this is the paragraph. I'll give you a minute to solve it. Okay, so let's solve it together now. So, for their sake, we have a moral and there should be a legal obligation to protect them. Everyone who can be vaccinated must be vaccinated in order to prevent the spread of the disease. This is a protection we demand even for our animals. Kennels will turn your pet away if they aren't properly vaccinated and on an accepted free treatment. There are rules we all have to play by and responsibilities we have to live up to if we want to live in a society together. So that was what the paragraph was about. And moving to the question, paragraph 5, what does the writer infer about vaccinations? So option A is the need for vaccination is growing as some animals can spread the disease. B, the society that administers vaccines should be more powerful. C, there should be a law or laws to enforce vaccination for vaccinatable people. And option D, fleas can carry diseases that can harm humans. So what do you think is the answer? Please put in your choice of answers in the comment section. Okay, so I can see answers coming up. So Rahul Raj has put in C as the answer. Nadia Sahir has put in B. Chinju Basil has put in C. Okay, so the answer is indeed C. There should be a law or laws to enforce vaccination for vaccinatable people. Okay, so that is the answer. And why do you think it is so? There must be an information in the paragraph that will lead you to this answer. Okay, that is because they have mentioned here that we have a moral and there should also be a legal obligation to protect them. Okay, so that is what they are saying. Okay, them in the sense vaccinatable people, that is normal people. Okay, who can be vaccinated. So there should be a moral obligation and a legal obligation. Okay, as per the law, uh, there should be a provision to protect them. That is what they have implied here. And that is done in order to avoid prevention of the, to avoid the spread of the disease. To avoid the spread of the disease. Okay, so and that is why your is C. Okay, so now moving to the next question, question number 12. Congrats to all those who have answered it correctly. So now moving to question number 12. What alternative does the writer propose in the sixth paragraph? And this is the paragraph I'll give you a minute to read, and then we will read it together. Okay, so let's read it together. So, if this isn't enough to convince a person to become fully vaccinated, then perhaps there is a solution that maintains everybody's freedom. Anti vaxxers, as people who object to vaccinations call themselves, can opt out of American society. No public or private school, workplace, or other institution should allow a non exempt, unvaccinated person through their doors. A basic concern for the health and safety of others is the price it costs to. Is that too harsh? We don't think so. If a person wants to blast their music loudly, shoot guns aimlessly, and drink and drive, they should be allowed to do exactly as they please, so long as it's on their own property, sufficiently isolated from everyone else. Similarly, if you don't want to be vaccinated, perhaps that should be allowed too, so long as you agree to permanently live out of the middle of nowhere. So that was what the extract or the paragraph was about. And now moving to the question, what alternative does the writer propose in the sixth paragraph? And the options are: A, more education should be given to encourage vaccination. B, people who refuse to be vaccinated should live in secluded locations. C, some institution could be established for unvaccinated people. And D, harsh laws should be passed to enforce vaccination. So, what do you think is the answer? Please put in your choice of answers in the comment section in Facebook. Okay, so the correct answer should be B. That is, people who refuse to be vaccinated should live in secluded locations. Okay, and the reason why it is B is that towards the end of the paragraph, they have mentioned if you don't want to be vaccinated, perhaps that should be allowed to do so long as you agree to permanently live out in the middle of nowhere. The middle of nowhere means that means in like faraway places, in secluded locations. That means you will be like isolated. Okay, so if that is okay, then you can choose to not be vaccinated if you can live like that. Okay, in the middle of nowhere. That means in secluded locations or totally isolated from the rest of the community or the society. Okay, so that is what they have mentioned, and this is the part of the paragraph which will lead you to this answer. Okay, so and if you check at the other options, A, C, and D, those are not true or not mentioned in the paragraph. So now moving on to the next question, question number 13. In seventh paragraph, the writer's opinion could be summarized as, and this is a paragraph. I'll give you a minute to read it and then we'll discuss it. Okay, so let's just read it together. So it is inexcusable. Yeah. So it is inexcusable that society has reached this point. Many of the deadliest diseases known to mankind are due to bacteria and viruses, and dozens of them are now entirely preventable thanks to the sciences of microbiology and immunology. People falsely believe that these diseases, like measles, have gone away, but they have not. They are always there, waiting to strike as soon as our collective guard goes down. Not so long ago, smallpox ran the risk of obliterating entire cities while polio paralyzed large fractions of a generation. We have forgotten this morbid history because public health has been a victim of its own success. That was what the paragraph was about. And moving to the question, what is the writer's opinion? Okay, so the writer's opinion could be summarized as, option A is the science of microbiology and immunology are extremely important. B, collective vaccination is a sign of well-adjusted society. Option C is the present situation cannot be justified. And option D, thanks to vaccinations, there are more successes than victims. So these are the options. And what do you think is the correct answer? The correct answer is option C. And why is it C? It is because in the very first part of the paragraph they have mentioned as it is inexcusable that society has reached this point. Inexcusable in the sense it cannot be justified. Okay, it cannot be justified that society has reached this point. That is what the paragraph, first part of the paragraph, and that is what exactly our option C also says. Okay, so instead of inexcusable, they have used the synonym justified. Instead of reach this point, they have used the synonym the present situation. Both mean the same. Okay, so and that is where answer is C. So now moving to the next and the last question. What can the reader infer about the writer's opinion in the last paragraph? And this is the paragraph. I'll give you a minute to read. So now we'll solve it together. So, but misinformation abounds. The internet, both a blessing and a curse, has allowed devilish lies, propaganda, and discredited fraud masquerading as science to infect the minds of millions of people. Unfortunately, there is no vaccine that inoculates someone against a counterfactual, unscientific mindset. There are, however, vaccines that can prevent dozens of harmful diseases. Those who refuse and recklessly endanger others should be put in quarantine. Yes, so that was what the paragraph was about. So, moving to the question, what can the reader infer about the writer's opinion in the last paragraph? And the options are: A, there are advantages and disadvantages in using the internet. B, internet usage can masquerade as propaganda. C, counterfactual mindsets ought to be inoculated against. Option D, quarantine is the only remedy for certain type of diseases. So, what do you think is the answer? So, correct answer. So, as mentioned here, okay, they have mentioned about the internet. Okay, so I think there are two options also regarding the internet. The internet, both a blessing and a curse. Okay, so that means what do they imply by blessing? That means it has a lot of advantages and provides a lot of benefits and all that. And curse in the sense there are also disadvantages, okay, and there are its own negatives, okay, that internet brings along. Okay, so that was that what is implied first sentence in the last paragraph, and that is why your answer should be A. There are advantages and disadvantages in using the internet, which is the correct sentence as mentioned in the paragraph. But B, C, and D is something that is not mentioned, not implied by the paragraph, and because of which those would can be eliminated, right? So, and the correct answer is A. So, congrats to everyone, those who have answered it correctly. So, now it's time to wind up. We have completed the discussion part C of the reading subtest. So, I hope you have understood whatever we have discussed today, and I hope you have got an idea about how to approach part C. So, thank you for joining us, and see you next week, and take care.